Stugotz here for 1-800-Flowers. If you've been to the mall recently, I'm sure you've noticed that everyone is coming down with holiday fever. The lines are more tangled than a box of Christmas lights, and there's no such thing as a quick trip. Luckily, 1-800-Flowers.com makes finding the perfect gift a joyous occasion. Skipping lines and hitting 1-800-Flowers is my holiday answer, and right now, 1-800-Flowers is giving our listeners a special 24 for 24 offer, 24 Holiday Light Roses for just $24. That's 24 Holiday Lights Roses for just $24. That's only $1 per rose. 24 Holiday Light Roses are the perfect way to give a holiday surprise to the special someone on your list. This beautiful bouquet of 24 roses in a rush of Christmas light tones will leave your loved one stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds, holiday roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 24 Holiday Lights Roses for only $24 is an unreal deal, but it expires Wednesday. When it comes to meaningful holiday moments, trust in the quality bouquets of 1-800-Flowers.com. To order 24 Holiday Lights Roses for just $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. Hurry, the offer ends Wednesday, so get yours now.
With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
This is the best of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
So, Stugotz, I cannot possibly care any less, could not care any less about an argument or a debate show where we're talking about, does Alabama deserve more than Ohio State? Conference championships don't mean anything. The most entertaining thing for the world is for Alabama to be in the Final Four. This is an entertainment vehicle. All of our systems of measurement in sports are imperfect. This is better than most, but I'd like to make it even better this way. Would anybody have any objection if the committee, with some real power, not this fake power that committee has where it's picking the Final Four, real power comes out and surprises us yesterday by saying the following. Here's what we're going to do. We're going 5 teams. Clemson gets a bye. We're going to put 5 in this year because we're trying to have the most perfect measurement, like giving the committee real power to do some things. Now, it adds an extra game and there's more money involved and none of it goes to the kids and all of that stuff. But if what you're going for, Alabama's in, and they can make all the arguments that they want about Alabama. Alabama's in because everybody wants Alabama to be in.
And you don't think people want Ohio State in? No. I would agree with you if the team on the other side of this argument was a team that maybe wasn't as high profile as Ohio State. But you're thinking people just want Saban and Alabama.
Alabama is better. Man, this is a giant money-making vehicle for everyone involved, and it's better if Alabama's involved. Like, this is all, the whole thing is, it is a mythical construct. Everything that we're witnessing here is just this contrivance that's made for us, a charity and an educational .org effort that's not allowed to be profitable, that lives by old rules, doesn't actually pay the employees, but pays the coaches all of the money as CEOs because of the television money involved. All of this is just a playground construct. It doesn't mean anything. We file it under education, but it's just there for our entertainment. All that money exists in college football specifically because of how many of us are going to watch when they play these games.
Right. So you have 5 teams. So the committee comes out, says 5 teams, adds an extra game. I think everyone's fine with that. Or you can do a play-in game.
No, but I'm saying, I'm sure everyone would be fine with it as an argument. I meant fine with it as a surprise.
Oh, I think it would
be at noon yesterday that they announced as part of the whole.
I think that would be a delightful surprise.
But you realize they're already doing a version of that. They're just not doing the most extreme version of it. The fact that there's a Sunday show where you have to tune in to find out who the playoff teams are is as ridiculous as the decision by LeBron James. Like, that you objected to so much. What happened? Think about what I'm saying. Where else does that happen? Where all the games are played? All right, now let's find out who's in the playoffs.
College basketball.
What is that? It's all for our entertainment.
Right, it's awesome entertainment,
So if it's going to be all for our entertainment, why don't you make it all for our entertainment? Like, keep going. Give the committee real. If you're going to put Condoleezza Rice on the power committee, give her some real power. Give them the power to be actual judges, to actually do things that would be entertaining. But, like, stop with the nonsense of this is all an amateur construct. It's professional entertainment. filed under amateurism. So just make it as entertaining as possible. You're already abusing the kids. It's already an injustice. You're not going to be made angrier by throwing another team in there and giving somebody a bye.
But you want the committee to be able to determine the amount. But this is a year-by-year thing, because I like where you're headed here, where they can determine, hey, you know what? There are only 4 teams worthy this year.
You can't add too many games. You can't add too many games.
But they have the ability to maybe go up to 5 or 6 teams if they feel like doing that, if they want in a particular
special
year.
Circumstances. Committee rules, asterisk.
I like it.
Why wouldn't you like it?
Well, I mean, it's probably not the way to do it. The way to do it is probably to establish, hey, here's how many teams.
But we're already tuning in on Sunday without knowing who's in the playoffs. We're already doing that. If we're going to do it as spectacle anyway, if it's going to be maximum entertainment, why not just stop with the outdated models of, man, why are there still bowls in 2017? Like, I know they're hanging on to the past and the way they made their money and all those things. The bowls were what was protecting us from a playoff. The bowls had to be included in the playoff so that money wouldn't disappear. If you're already doing that overt a business transaction, what's the next step on it? Like, why are you stopping there? Why wouldn't you push it the way the NFL does towards the greediest possible places?
Well, they are, though. They are. It's only a matter of time before the Final Four becomes a Final 8.
No doubt. Yep.
You can't, to your point, there's several logistical reasons why you can't do a Final 5. That's just stupid. One team has a bye, extra games on one side of the bracket. Doesn't make any sense. Got to go to 8, and we'll get there. There's more money.
Why can't it be 5 with Clemson gets a bye?
Because a team's got to play extra games potentially.
Well,
then 2 and 3 get the real reward because they play one fewer game. It doesn't make any sense. It's an odd number of teams. It's bizarre. How could you entertain this?
It's
the dumbest thing.
No, because people are concerned that these players are already playing like they're at the limit of games. So take one regular season game away and add it.
But why is this the limit? Alabama's game against Mercer's not the limit, but this is the limit?
I have no idea.
How am I going to retroactively take a game away, Stugotz? 5 makes no sense. 8, though. That's the number.
Ooh, or 6 with 2 buys. And UCF could get in. Dan, that'd be great.
UCF should be in, man. All right, let me go back here.
2 wild card teams.
Hold on a second. I am so mad. Thank you for bringing up 2 wild cards. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. No, what I'm saying is asinine, and it's ridiculous. It's also what you would like.
It also ignores that we wouldn't be having the same debate about who's number 7 as we are about who's number 5.
That's fine, though. But once you get into the 7, it matters less. 4 is such a nice number. It really should be. Really, if you're thinking about it, if you want to limit the number of the games, if you're actually interested in player safety, what the committee should have announced yesterday is 2 teams playing for the championship. It's going to be Clemson. It's Clemson and Georgia. No, Oklahoma. Sorry.
But we did that, and everybody had a problem with just the 2 teams.
Yes.
So we added an extra.
That's right.
2 teams.
Right. So add 1 more. I know 2 more is too much, and 4 more is crazy. So just add 1 more and a bye.
What if every year is single elimination, every game?
Tell them.
Tell him what? Tell him what? What do you? We're doing a radio show here, Stugotz. You're having a whole private show with somebody else.
I'm not. Fat Chris, his mic was open. He was trying to explain. We're all trying to explain to you that 5 teams is not right, and he was saying that you don't understand that 5 teams is not right.
He doesn't understand the logistical challenge.
You need 2 bye teams for it to be fair.
Yeah, so you gotta have 6.
Right. Or 8.
All right, what if we had a single elimination season? So whenever a team loses, their season's done. So last man standing's the champion. Now, of course, you think, what if my team won and I play them in week 13? Then you're off bye week. What do you think about that, Dan?
I think Central Florida should be the national champion.
You could keep playing forever.
Central Florida is the team that hasn't lost. Central Florida has not slipped up against Syracuse like Clemson did. They're the only team in the sport that doesn't have a blemish on its resume. The only legitimate team. UCF should be the national champion. And I know you guys all laugh at me because UCF is ranked 12th. I want to see UCF not play Auburn and not just beat Auburn. I want to see UCF against the big boys. I want to see my plan of 4 teams in a bye.
Right.
Clemson gets the bye. UCF is in.
I do think if UCF beats Auburn, because that's a pretty good measuring stick for you, it is. If they beat Auburn, I do think whoever wins the national championship should have to play UCF. 1 more game. No, I really do, because then they've run the table and they beat the team that beat Alabama and beat Georgia.
Now you're adding too many games.
What are they, a 14-point dog to Auburn? A 3-loss Auburn?
That's offensive. That's because the money is suckers, just like this committee. People who don't know what they're talking about.
Also, I don't think Condoleezza Rice is still a part
Central Florida has a defensive player with one hand. He blocked the kick with one hand. I've seen that dude, Shaquem Griffin. I've seen him intercept the ball. I've seen him cause a fumble. That guy was the conference defensive player of the year last year. He is a total menace, that guy. His brother plays for the Seahawks.
He plays football with one hand
I know.
At a high level. Dan tried to tweet out a picture of this guy using two hands, and he failed at it 3 times over the weekend.
I was hoping nobody noticed that.
Do you think if they moved it to 8 teams that they would have placed Wisconsin at number 9?
Yes.
Because what we're doing here is we expand this. We're giving Wisconsin more of an opportunity to get into the playoffs, which is not
Actually,
a good thing.
Guillermo, do this. Guillermo, do this. Put this on the poll, please. Would you be okay with Wisconsin being ranked number 9 for the rest of time, as long as none of us ever have to watch them play a football game again? Like, I'd totally be willing to give Wisconsin that. Wisconsin, you want to be number 9 forever. You can be number 9. You could have one win.
New Year's Bowl.
Every year, you're going to be number 9, but you have to promise me that I never have to watch you play another important game again.
Don Batard.
Stugotz, when we decided to move to South Florida, decided that he was going to move to Neptune.
Yeah.
He thought that would be a good commute. Keeps buying homes further and further north.
Stugotz.
Last time I checked in with him, he was having a home built on stilts in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Many of you have pointed out that my 5-team plan doesn't work because if you give Clemson a bye and then 2 teams are playing each other in one bracket and 2 teams are playing each other in another bracket, now you've got 3 teams at the end of that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work for anybody. So how about Alabama, Ohio State? How about the committee comes out yesterday and says, here's what we've got. These 3 are solid. This 4th one, we can't decide. We're going to have Ohio State and Alabama play a play-in game the same way we do in the NCAA tournament in March.
That's what I said last segment. Yes, I think everyone would love that. We can't decide the 4th team. These 2 teams are playing a play-in game. That's awesome. That is great.
I'm just saying that if you're willing to suspend some of your morality on this, if you don't care about the injustices in that sport where Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher, who is not special in any way, he just happened to be the guy who was at Florida State after Bobby Bowden. Jimbo Fisher is not a special, brilliant coaching mind. When he lost his quarterback this year, he had 6 losses.
Right.
When he has not had Jameis Winston, he has been just another guy.
Pretty average, yep.
And he just got, you saw the contract he just got.
Yep.
There's no money for the kids. There's plenty of money for the not special Jimbo Fisher to go to some outpost program that can afford it. Texas A&M isn't even one of the big schools.
No, but they can afford it. They got the money there.
They've got money, but what I'm saying is Texas A&M has always been a nowhere program. Kevin Sumlin topped everything out with Johnny Manziel. That's as high as that program's ever been. And now that program, a nowhere tumbleweed program that is 3rd, 4th, biggest in Texas, now they can afford to give the non-special Jimbo Fisher the 2nd highest, the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of the sport. If you're willing to put that aside, as so many of you are, then why not just keep going? Why are you stopping here with the morality? Oh, I'm sorry, 1 more game would be too much for the kids. Really? Really?
You think Urban Meyer or Nick Saban care? Honestly, do you? If they had to play a play-in game, do you think those guys, Urban Meyer would certainly love it because he probably knew his team wasn't getting in yesterday, but do you think those guys care? The guys who walk into kids' living rooms and say, hey, I'm going to protect you for the next 4 years. Do you think they care if the kids play an extra game, if it brings them and the school a lot of money? Probably not.
Probably not would be the answer to that. And I would just, college football has it figured out better than any of the other sports in terms of how to do accurate measurements. Like right now, if we were applying the college football sensibilities to professional football, who would be your top 4 and what would be the 5th team left out? Would it be the Rams? Would the Rams be the one left out? Who would be your top 4?
You'd have the Patriots. You'd have the Eagles. You've had the Vikings, I think, right? And then maybe the Saints or the Steelers.
Right, you'd have the Saints and the Steelers. You have the Saints, Steelers, and Rams arguing about whether they're, Ohio State and And Alabama.
Or maybe you have a committee that says, hey, listen, I know Jacksonville's 8-4. Some of those other teams are 9-3, but Jacksonville is plus 121.
Well, how about this? But how about this one? How about if instead of football, the professional football playoffs, the way they are now, how about if I were to just say to you, how would you feel? Don't you think it would be more accurate? Instead of somebody's going to get in the AFC that's 9-7 or 8-8, don't you think it would be more accurate for some sort of committee to just say, here are the 8 best teams in football. They're the ones who are going to the playoffs. Get the Ravens out of here. Get all that crud at the bottom of the AFC out of here. Here are the 8 best teams in the sport. Let's have them play.
Yeah. Yep. I think that'd be a better way of doing it. No question about it.
By the nature of cutting it down to 8 teams total, you're getting rid of a lot of bad teams anyways.
I mean, there's just so much bad football. So much of what was being played yesterday didn't matter. These games that don't matter when they're. I know that the Ravens are fighting for the bottom of the AFC and the Chiefs are fighting for the bottom of the AFC. Those games are all irrelevant.
The only problem with that, like right now, Carolina is the 6th seed in the NFC. They're 8-4. I could see Carolina making the Super Bowl. The Falcons are on the outside right now. If the Falcons got in, I could see them making a little bit of a run. You've had teams like the Giants and the Packers recently as that final wild card team make a run all the way.
I don't care. They don't.
I don't ever want Aaron Rodgers out. Is what I'm trying to say.
They don't deserve. If you don't deserve to be there, then you don't deserve to be there.
Right. But if you're this committee, which I love, I think the NFL should do this. Do you factor in that Aaron Rodgers is coming back in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The 8. Yes, what I'm saying is that's how you have the committee do it. Instead of that's why it's a better measurement.
Right.
That is why it's better measurement than the standings.
We're kicking out Carolina. We're putting Green Bay in because Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
That committee has kept Clemson all year ranked high, despite a brutal loss to Syracuse because it factored in quarterback was hurt for half the game. The standings don't do that for you.
Right.
And so I would be totally okay for a committee to take a look at the standings, to use the standings as a supplement, and then a committee to decide in the NFL, here are our 8 best teams. I'd be totally good with that.
So would I.
It'd be a more accurate measurement than the one we're getting now, which is just random conference. This division's weak. Let's go ahead and see if Baltimore can get into the playoffs with that crud team.
Do we get a weekly TV show with the announcements of the top 8? Because then I am all in on this.
Cool, because that's key.
Yes,
that's key.
That is key. Like I want it after week 1.
I'm saying, don't you need to evolve like this in 2017? Everything's a game show. Everything's America's Got Talent. Like, let's go. Let's evolve, sports.
That selection show was awesome yesterday. It's just great television. Herbie walking off the set.
But, Mike,
unbelievable.
This is why LeBron James was a pioneer. We all reacted so badly to him turning his decision into a television show. It should all be that. Only because we're still clinging to some norms from the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse who were galloping through the Notre Dame backfield, only because we're clinging to some sort of Rockney and Rudy mythology.
The Galloping Ghost or something like that.
Whatever.
The 4 Horsemen. I think that's a fine.
Didn't I call it? What did I call it? The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. How's that a fine?
I thought there was something with a ghost in there. I don't know. I think you got it messed up. If you go back and listen to
one
tape,
that's a fine for you.
Oh no! Hold on, let me get some money.
One of the 4 Horsemen was the Galloping Ghost.
I don't have any money today.
That's an extra fine. And also, did you look?
I felt in my pocket that I don't have any money today. It's all plastic in there.
Okay, it's $2 then. If $1 gets double every time he doesn't have it.
I found some money. Hold on.
Time to justify our unreasonable salaries.
You found it. That's good. Good thing.
Don Le Batard.
Stugotz lies so much, and he doesn't take inventory of his lies, that even when he's telling the truth, we don't believe him on anything. What's wrong, Stugotz? What are you objecting to?
I mean, listen, I've done this to myself, so I'm frustrated at myself. I'm not going to lash out elsewhere because I understand why everyone would think that I was the one who did this. But I am sitting here telling you guys that I did not do it.
Stugotz.
You absolutely took a bite out of a piece of pizza and put it back with the rest of the pizza.
It was me.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I submitted my Heisman vote this weekend.
Yeah.
Whenever the Heisman comes out, you're going to see my mark somewhere on that. You're going to know how I voted and where I voted once you see what it is. I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm not allowed to say because they'll take away your vote if you say beforehand. But you're going to see my imprint on that thing.
Does he play for UCF?
Guillermo's
two hands?
useless sound montage is coming up in a second. Guillermo's useless sound montage. But before we get into that, can we hear sound, please, of Geno Smith, the new sheriff in town in New York, after blubbering Eli got pushed out and the blubbering New York media rushed to defend him. Here is Geno Smith ripping a former coach.
I did see one of my ex-coaches say he didn't want me to be his quarterback, and that really upset me. The guy that we saved his job, 2013, we fought our ass off for him both years, and for him to come out and say that just shows you how much of a coward he is.
What coach are you talking about?
Rex Ryan.
Way to cut right to it, man. Hasn't been holding that in for
time now for Guillermo. He's just waiting for nobody asked him. He needed a podium. He needed a loser's podium to stand at and be given a microphone. Let's do Guillermo's useless sound montage. Week 13.
Obviously, a lot to clean up, and keep scratching and keep clawing, keep fighting, and go back to work.
All of a sudden, it's 19-10. It's right there, and hey, we got to go win it. It wasn't one of those play not to lose, because I think we've all done that.
Well, there's plays that you run it, and there's plays you throw it.
Fought tooth and nail to get back into this one. Thought we were going to go back and win it.
I was breathing the whole game. Just like our guys were.
We knew it was going to be tough sledding at times.
How would you describe what he did?
Savage. Just cold-blooded.
No matter who gets called up, it's going to be the next guy up.
I just was earlier this week thinking, man, if I get an opportunity, man, you got to ride the Bronco one time.
Jimmy Graham's one of the best players in the National Football League. He's hotter than ever. Like I always say in BA Jam, he's heating up.
0-4 is 0-4, but it's a different kind of 0-4. It was an 0-4 that very well could have been a 3-1.
This game is a game of inches, so when everything mirrors up, you have games like this.
At the end of the day, we did what we had to do to win the game.
Well, I think he made a bunch of kicks. I think that was their offense. That was their scoring offense. To make all 5 of them, that's a good day.
Again, we got to keep the gas pedal down.
I'd never been to an NFL game before I played in the NFL, so it's kind of weird.
He's smart. He adjusts to anything. He can solve problems for you. And also, obviously, he can thump.
We talk all the time. Run game's my best friend.
Experience is still the best teacher.
We need to stay together no matter what the noise is outside. Sometimes the noise gets loud. Sometimes it gets loud in another direction.
Well, I do everything. Man. I do ice tub, hot tub, cryo, needles, massage.
Everything, literally.
Yeah, I do.
Just with everything.
Yeah. I do every type of stretch, yoga. I do everything I can, man, to keep my body ready, to keep my body moving good.
I can't really comment on the past because I can't. I'm right now in the present.
You never win till you win.
He's just a dog, man. He just wants to play football, good or bad.
The scoreboard is what the scoreboard is.
Eli Manning, one of the great gentleman warriors.
The name of the game is winning, and that's all it comes down to.
At the end of the day, we had opportunities for turnovers.
Josh can run, so you kind of measure it, and then you don't know if he's running really fast or super fast because he does have a couple of different speeds there.
You work and you come to work every day and you play and you compete to win. And that's what we're trying to do is get number 4 and then get 5 and get 6. And we got 4 left.
You had a couple of throws that probably should have been picked off.
But they weren't.
It's the most important game I've ever played because it's the next game. Nothing different. Just like last week was the most important game.
We got to stick together. We got to keep fighting. It is what it is.
9-3 is definitely better than 8-3. I'll say the same thing. 10-3 would be even better.
I'm going to coach this team as long as my key card works.
I get fired up for any game I play. I don't care if it's checkers, chess, tennis, basketball, soccer, if it's boxing, if it's football. Anytime I get to compete, I love playing.
I was thinking about you guys last night. There was a little brown on the bologna, because after a while it gets a little late, and I was like, I'm going to eat it anyway. I don't care. Normally I fry it, but I was too damn hungry.
That is bologna eating Doug Marrone. That was Ben McAdoo saying I'm going to be the coach of this team until they change the key cards. What a great quote. Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Is Eli Manning one of our gentleman warriors? What the hell is Steve Young talking about?
I have no idea.
Warriors are not gentlemen?
I have no idea what he's talking about. The new voice that makes me laugh every week is John Fox's, though.
It's great. I love John Fox's, garrelish, ate a bunch of cigars and cigarettes and shards of glass. He just made a bunch of kicks against us. That wasn't a John Fox at all.
No, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's awful.
Do you have one?
I haven't workshopped it, but I don't know. Let me just
Can I hear him again? Can I hear him again?
What you want to hear?
He made a bunch of kicks.
It's pretty good.
He made a bunch of kicks.
He made a bunch of kicks.
He made them. This game plan, he made a bunch of kicks.
Okay. Yeah. No, all right. I shouldn't have done any of that. My fault.
It was bad, yeah.
John Fox, you lose by 1 point to Jimmy Garoppolo at home. Like, that is wasting everybody's time.
Cash more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
Let's go back to Mel Kiper Jr.'s list of divas.
Number 2, definitely on my diva big board, is Whitney Houston. Definitely been going back and forth on this one throughout the process. Dan certainly has all the tools. You talk about an I Will Always Love You, arguably the greatest ballad of all time, but ultimately I couldn't escape the off-the-field concerns. Hanging around with a shady group. Dan, this has a lot of team executives a little nervous, a little gun-shy to pull the trigger on Whitney Houston.
He's dead!
That would be an off-the-field concern, Dan.
Stugotz.
Number 1, Beyonce Knowles, 5'7", 137 pounds, extremely confident in her abilities, powerful voice, incredible agility, has proven she can be part of a team, but also go out on her own and win you a game. Astonishing lower body strength, too. She could probably squat a cement truck, Dano. Consider me a loud and proud member of the Beehive. She's overcome a lot of adversity, weak teammates, lack of roster continuity, pregnancies, Becky with the good hair, displayed incredible resiliency. There's a reason she's bae.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz's weekend observations are going to be right now. Joe Flacco, if you didn't see it, Joe Flacco ate the W. It was the most interesting thing that Joe Flacco has ever done at a press conference podium. He ate the W on Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, that image of Jameis Winston eating all of his fingers has not escaped any of our attention, and Joe brought it back yesterday.
Mike is scarred by that, man. I'll still get texts from Mike till this day. Tell me that he just can't shake the Jameis Winston pregame speech.
I'll never shake that. By the way, Joe Flacco, sneaky dry funny.
Yes, he is. Go ahead and put it on the poll, though, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Do the Ravens need to go away forever now? Because I need that team to just go. Just go.
They're going to the playoffs. No, the schedule's so weak. They're going to be 10-6. They're going to get into the playoffs.
Just go.
I like to point out greatness. I think the best to ever do his job in that league plays for that team. Justin Tucker. No nonsense.
Yep.
50-yarders, cash as all hell.
That guy is so good. But you think he's the best? Aren't people saying that Bailey's the best when he's healthy?
Bailey's really good at home. Remember, we went down thoroughly over his road home splits. Justin Tucker, I've just never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's perfected the art of field goal kicking. Time now for Stugotz's weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend Observations is brought to you by Metro PCS. Choose 4 free phones from brands like Samsung, LG, and Motorola when you switch 4 lines to Metro PCS. Sales tax not included. Not valid for numbers currently on the T-Mobile network. Dan, you can't spell boat raced without the U. Turnover chain, pawn shop, collision course, University of Central Florida. Congratulations on winning a national championship in Dan's personal record book.
Yes, congratulations.
Dan, the University of Tennessee still doesn't have a coach. Philip Fulmer, undermining the old Tennessee athletic director. Undermining the old Tennessee athletic director because he wanted to be the new Tennessee athletic director. Philip, the Stugotz is strong in you. However, you're not coaching the bowl game too, so the Barry Alvarez is weak in you. You screwed it up, man.
Sorry.
Ohio State fans, complaining that they won their conference and Alabama did not, a year removed from making the Final Four while not winning their conference. The Stugotz is even stronger in you. And do me a favor, shut up. Auburn, overrated. If Fired had a look, it would look like Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo, more like Ben Macca. Update that resume. Andy Reid gave up his play calling duties, not because he doesn't want to call plays, but because he wanted to spend more time staring at the laminate menu from the Waffle House. You gave up 38 points to the Jets. Whoever calls the defensive plays for the Chiefs should also give up his play calling duties. How did Scott Frost celebrate UCF going undefeated and winning their conference? By taking the Nebraska job. For the college athlete shouldn't be paid crap. J.T. Barrett, awful things inside his body so he could play a football game that makes everyone a lot of money except for J.T. Barrett. I'm not sure Lane Kiffin can act like this Lane Kiffin at any other school in America. According to Dan, Miami getting embarrassed by Clemson was better for the program than winning that game. Listen, when you get paid as much as J.T. Barrett does, you should play a football game 4 days after having knee surgery. Saturday, most disappointing day in the history of sports. Good thing the college football system isn't flawed. Alabama got into the Final Four simply by not playing. Pens, Kings, Lord Stanley, collision course. In the history of football, no team has lost more games you want them to win and won more games you want them to lose than the New York Jets. Alabama, Ohio State, play-in game. Who says no? Now that I think about it, Nick Saban would say no. Justin Tucker has a boot. Keenum making his case for MVP. Urban Meyer, now you can spend more time with your family. 21 of 30, 258 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Tom Brady's stat line, and the Patriots still won by 20 on the road. I hate them. Expect the league to come down hard on Marcus Peters. We know how they feel about disrespecting the flag. Everyone who doesn't play football for a living had the same number of catches and yards as Randall Cobb. J.J. Watt tweeted out a video of his scar and of himself walking because, of course, he did. Do me a favor. Tweet out a video of your last sack. It's okay, J.J. I've got time. Better yet, considering what it was, send me the Vine. Cam Newton yells at his offensive coordinator, and he's not a leader. Tom Brady yells at his offensive coordinator, and he's a fiery leader. Anyone care to try and crack the code on that one? Robbie Gould, revenge game. Tariq Cohen, looked like you had a lot of schmutz on your jersey. Jimmy Garoppolo showed some signs. Speaking of signs, dollar signs. Derrick Henry, thank you for the greatest cover of all time. Blake Bortles, I can't figure out. Denver Broncos, drafting a quarterback. Collision course. I'm going to try that again. Blake Bortles, I can't figure you out. Congratulations to the Jets and Dolphins for winning must-lose games. The Giants are better without Eli. What happened there? The Giants are better without Eli Manning. That wasn't Gronk being Gronk. That was Gronk being a jerk. If Cam Newton throws a forearm to the skull of a defenseless player lying prone on the ground, cursing that player to get a concussion, causing that player.
You got the yips?
I'm rattled. I don't know what happened. Causing that player to get a concussion. It's leading Sports Center. Anyone care to try and crack the code on that one? Urban Meyer, you slithered your way into a more poisonous steak.
Slithered.
I'm rattled, Dan. Urban Meyer, you slithered your way into a more poisonous snake, and it killed you. My favorite line of the weekend was Ohio State had Alabama beaten every advanced metric. Here's an advanced metric. Open up a sports page and look under the L column. There is nothing I want to see more that will end worse than the next head coach of Florida State being Lane Kiffin. Eli Manning said he wants to play in 2018 and doesn't want the coach fired. Dan, you can't spell Eli without the L-I-E. Lie. For the rest of the country that's not paying attention, since new Marlins owner Derek Jeter has taken over, he has acted like an inexperienced, classless, insensitive jerk. Let me get this straight. You walk into kids' homes, tell them and their parents that you'll watch over them for 4 years, and when you decide to leave for more money and to lie to more people, you don't have the decency to pick up a phone and call those kids. Jimbo Fisher. More like Jim Go Fisher. More like Jim Go to Hell Fisher.
Whoa.
Going to hell. That reminds me.
There we go.
Or Pryles.
There we go.
Dan, those are the weekend observations. Sweating.
What happened?
I don't know. Reading happened.
Payday. It is payday.
It happens occasionally. A lot of stuff to read there.
Don Le Batard.
The bifocal eyeglasses.
Stugotz.
Marcus Mariota. Growing up right in front of our eyes.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Rob Gronkowski deserves a suspension that gets everyone's attention. A statement suspension, a symbolic suspension. This league does not tolerate optics that bring violent concussions through dirty play. When Michael Crabtree and Talib give the league a stain by getting into a violent fight outside of the choreographed violence, they get 2 games, and then it gets knocked down to 1. This is worse than that.
Right.
A guy got a concussion because Gronkowski fights exactly the way you thought he fought, which is stupidly. And he does something incredibly dirty. He gives a guy a concussion. He takes his helmet off. He's got a bloody mouth, and he's woozy. That's brain trauma. Gronkowski needs to get what Ndamukong Suh got on Thanksgiving Day. He needs to get what Albert Hainsworth got in terms of national shame and publicity for a violence that is not allowed within the choreographed violence of that game. And he needs to get hit hard. And I don't care whether you think he's the lovable polar bear. That was an act of violence, and it's as egregious a dirty play as I've ever seen in that sport.
It was awful. Hainsworth got 5 games for that, so that would have Gronk out essentially the remainder.
Somewhere between what Hainsworth did is a guy was on the ground, lost his helmet, and then he stepped on his face. This is worse than that.
Right. Do you think
this is worse than that.
But do you think it will happen? Do you think the league will come down that hard on Rob
but
Gronkowski?
I do think they will be excessive. I think they will come down with a punishment that's going to get people's attention, and should. Let's listen to Ryan Clark on this subject, because what Gronk did yesterday is as dirty as anything I've ever seen, and was simply a temper tantrum. All it was, he thought he was interfered with. He didn't get the ball. He was enraged. The Bill intercepted it, and that's what a polar bear does when there are no tranquilizers around, and that's what rage looks like, because that was a temper tantrum is all that was, making it all the worse. This wasn't Talib and Crabtree who have had something simmer for an entire year. This is Rob Gronkowski deciding in a moment that he is frustrated that he didn't catch a pass because he was pushed off on, and his reaction was to give a dude a concussion with an incredibly dirty play.
If this is a guy named Perfect, or if it's one of those guys that does something like this, the reaction that we would have would be different. I'm sitting in the room watching with people, and people are laughing. People are sitting in the room, and they're joking about it. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm upset because Tre'Davious is one of my close friends, a guy I train, a guy I know. I'll admit, I'm upset because I'm watching people laugh and joke, but it's part of the fun-loving guy. It's the same reason he can do certain things in the offseason that are unpatriotic, and we laugh at those things.
He's going to get a fair amount of leniency because he has that reputation.
There can be no leniency to this if you're the NFL in the sense of player safety.
I just don't like this. This has to be the same kind of controversy as Ndamukong Suh being dirty on Thanksgiving Day and Albert Hainsworth stepping on some dudes. None of us knew who Albert Hainsworth were. I remember being introduced to Albert Hainsworth. The first thing I knew about him is beyond, he was a guy who was drafted high. The thing I know about him is he entered the consciousness of America when He did something that was incredibly dirty on television. Somebody's helmet fell off, and he stepped on the dude's face on purpose, wearing cleats. This is worse than that.
Well, it's worse, but I'm interested. So he got 5 games, and you said you don't think the NFL will give him 5 games.
I don't think they'll give him 5 games because it doesn't look worse than that. Because it's not the actual crime, it's how the crime looks. It doesn't look as bad as somebody stepping on your face when you're not wearing a helmet. But it is worse. Gronkowski at that weight, falling on the back of your head, purposely spearing you, is worse.
The optics are pretty bad on it. I think the NFL actually has to go out of its way to make sure it's 5 or 6 games, or else you're going to have guys like Perfect and other guys, as Ryan Clark pointed out, be like, hey, what's going on here, man?
No, 5 games, man, I don't know.
mean, Dan, it was so cheap.
It needs to be something that gets people's attention. It can't be just something you slide under a rug. Like, this is not something. This is one of the league's highest profile stars on the league's highest profile team doing a violent act that ranks with any in the history of the league in terms of dirtiness, and concussing a dude who was totally helpless with his back to him. Like, I don't know how I can make it worse, short of having him spear him with the line marker. Like, hit him in the head with the line marker. Like, I'm really not sure how Rob Gronkowski can do more damage than running as fast as he can and hitting someone as hard as he can by just spearing them at his size and weight.
I don't think it can be worse. I mean, maybe the only thing that makes it worse, Dan, it's a more recognizable name that he does it to. Maybe if he does it to a J.J. Watt, or he does it to one of the great defensive players in the NFL. Maybe, I'm just saying.
Well, but that's where the dehumanizing aspects of football are interesting to sort of explore, because he is hitting a nameless guy, and when Tom Brady gets hit, the rules all get changed.
Imagine that guy hit Tom Brady that way.
Uh-huh.
How many games?
Imagine anybody hit Tom Brady that way.
And how many games do you think they're looking at?
Do you realize there would be a congressional hearing? I'm not even kidding. There would be our justice system would change. If somebody hit Tom Brady that way, after a play, we'd become communist law immediately on the spot.
Don Le Batard.
Mike, for some reason, I saw you in the room there working on what I thought was your Andrew Luck. I wasn't sure. I walk into the room, and of course, what they're talking about is who in sports would you call to rescue your life if you were in a threatening situation and feel like you were going to actually be rescued. And so he's working on his Andrew Luck. So let's go ahead and play it out.
Stugotz.
Well, not something I want to do, but absolutely it'll save your life. I'll rappel down this cave. I'll neutralize the threat. We'll secure the perimeter. Get you back to your beautiful wife. Happy wife, happy life. Jack Doyle.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
So Jimbo Fisher was reportedly sobbing because the news got out before he was able to tell his team. He was saying that they were going to be the first to know.
Right.
And then they weren't the first to know because the news leaked, and he doesn't know how the news leaked.
Reportedly, and I knew it 3 weeks ago, but reportedly he was sobbing. I mean, Jimbo Fisher was like, no one knows. It's just a report.
I don't know. The reason I say reportedly is because I didn't see it myself, and so I don't know who to source on that. I just read it this week.
What a lame excuse! What a lame excuse! Not a well-kept secret he was going to Texas A&M. This has been in the works for several weeks on end.
Right. How did I know before Jimbo?
That's a joke for him to use that as an excuse.
And he was faking.
He was asked about it on his coaching show. Yeah. He was asked about it.
Why do people think that Jimbo Fisher is special?
National championship.
Yeah, but he had the best college talented quarterback I've ever seen at such a young age.
He recruited all those kids. And Dan, if you look at but you're right, I'm agreeing with you.
He also recruited the 165-pound kid who was playing quarterback for him and lost 6 times this season in one of the most incompetent offenses I've ever seen from a major school.
Francois was supposed to be the quarterback, and Francois is the guy who's upset that Jimbo didn't say goodbye before leaving.
Hold on a second. Let me ask you a question. Can you envision a scenario? Let me ask you a question if Jimbo Fisher's so good.
Right.
Can you envision a scenario where Nick Saban loses one player and loses 6 games in a season? Can you imagine such a scenario? Who the hell is Jimbo Fisher? He's a guy who won with a quarterback who was really great, and he was 27-1 with Jameis Winston. And beyond that, what?
I am telling you.
Bobby Bowden spent 15 straight years in the top 5. That merits this kind of contract. This guy is a remora fish on Bobby Bowden, a remora fish on the belly of Bobby Bowden.
First off, careful on the tone, because I feel like it's probably a couple of dollars right there. There was terrible tone issues right there. And then secondly, what I was telling you was, you asked a question. It's because he's won a national championship. Since Jameis Winston has went to the NFL, he has been an average coach at best. Average
quarterback.
Did Jimbo hurt you? Jimbo Fisher's been an awesome head coach in college football. He's been tremendous. He's turned around that program who was searching for answers because they had Bobby Bowden there and they weren't getting the same recruiting classes. Completely energized a program with terrible facilities, absolutely terrible facilities. He's a tremendous head coach.
Mike, the program made him. He didn't make the program.
The program was on life support.
The program made him. He did not make the program. Jimbo Fisher is not special. He's a guy who, like a lot of guys in coaching, can have success at the big program.
But Dan, to a school like Texas A&M, he probably is special. Maybe not to other schools, but how many times do coaches leave Florida State and go to Texas A&M?
How many times have you watched a football game that Jimbo Fisher was coaching and said, man, that guy X and O'd the hell out of the other guys? No, he's had better players because FSU has had better players for a long time because FSU has been a program that has mattered for 35 years.
Right.
Bobby Bowden spent 15 years in the top 5. This is not that guy.
He wasn't a remora fish around Bobby Bowden. Remember, Florida State brought Jimbo over because he was a part of Nick Saban's staff, and Jimbo Fisher, his offense was doing its job to the point that they realized they had to push Bobby out and keep Jimbo because other programs were knocking. I think you're off base here. He won that state at a time where it was very difficult.
I'm well aware of what his bona fides are. I know how he's thought of. What I'm telling you is I've never spoken to an ACC coach one time that fears Jimbo Fisher's mind. They fear Jimbo Fisher's players, and getting them to FSU is going to be a hell of a lot easier than it is to get them at Texas A&M.
Right. We'll see what kind of recruiter he is. To your point on the coaching, though, Mike, I mean, there is a point to be made. Since Jameis left to the NFL, he's 25-12. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State, 25-12.
We're inflating a freshman quarterback that under no circumstance was supposed to be playing this year.
I said when I saw Jameis Winston play very early that's the best true freshman quarterback I've seen. Only Rosen comes close, and that's after the fact. That's the best true freshman quarterback I've ever seen. And then, again, I ask you, if you're going to make him, if you're going to give him Saban money, then it can't be you lose one player and all your genius falls out the window. If Alabama lost any one player, you know that team's not losing 6 damn games. FSU was terrible this year. The idea that Jimbo Fisher parlayed this season into that contract when FSU was done with Jimbo Fisher based on everything that happened this season.
FSU was done with Jimbo? No, they desperately tried to keep him. They weren't done with him.
I'm not talking about the FSU administration. I'm talking about the FSU fan base. The fact that he was arguing with fans on the radio. That he does, man. Look, I don't know Jimbo Fisher. So everything I'm saying here is not this. The roots of this are not about Jimbo Fisher. The roots of this are how offensive it is to me that Jimbo Fisher gets to get that kind of money as just a dude who was at a school. Like, that he gets to get that kind of money when the players, when you keep telling me that the players can't have any of it.
So, Dan, that's it. I mean, at the core of all of this, that's what bothers you, and it should bother you, and it should bother a lot of people. That Jimbo Fisher, an average coach, when he doesn't have Jameis Winston as his quarterback, is the highest paid coach in the game, and the players aren't making a cent. And that should bother everyone.
They go out of their way to hire the flashy name guy. You can't pay the players. And Texas A&M, a program that is not the biggest in its state, it doesn't have the biggest booster like Oklahoma State does or like Oregon does. It's just a program. They have the money to make Jimbo Fisher the highest paid coach by guarantee in the history of the sport. And you can't pay the players. And you know why they have that money? How about this one, Stugotz? Because Johnny Manziel, drug addict, was flying all over the country raising funds in an airplane during student times, raising funds for you so you could be a program who can matter. taking classes online, feeding this business, flying all over the place. That's the reason Texas A&M has the kind of money that you need. And Texas A&M wants in the game, Stugotz. They're not in the game. They've never been in the game. Texas A&M has not been a program that's been in the game. What they just bought for $80 million is we want in the game. And it didn't matter whether it was Jimbo Fisher or some other hot coach. They would have just gotten somebody to take their $80 million so they could get into this game where everyone is making money except for the kids.
Listen, I agree with you, but Dan, again, here's the thing. To Texas A&M, he's a big deal. To other schools, he's not. Because coaches don't leave Florida State to go to Texas A&M. National championship winning coaches don't leave Florida State.
That's why the price tag is what it was, Stugotz. They wanted the splash of, we are stealing this guy from one of the programs that matter. We are a program that doesn't matter.
Right.
We haven't mattered. We want to get it back up. We had so much fun with Johnny Manziel. We want to get it back up there. We have not been a national program. We've been a regional program.
Right.
Kevin Sumlin topped out everything that was here with Johnny Manziel.
There are multiple reports, by the way, that Ben McAdoo's key card has been revoked.
All right.
That's over.
So hold on a second. Mike, can you find the end of that useless sound montage? Because Ben McAdoo, man, oh, man. How great is that? Swallowed everybody. The ending in New York, like, what difference does it make? Why would you let him coach this game, this one game? You're basically firing him for how he handled all the Eli stuff. That was the last straw. And so here was Ben McAdoo when asked. They lost against Oakland. The Giants lost against the Oakland Raiders this weekend. They started Geno Smith at quarterback. They had a public relations calamity all of last week, in which you saw the Maras were quoted, right? Stugotz is saying, we don't like how any of this was handled. We don't think like that's when that's when you realize, that's when McAdoo himself realized, oh no, the owners are saying things publicly.
I'm going to coach this team as long as my key card works.
It no longer works. They're 11-5 last
wants
year.
more money.
Stugotz is reporting that the key card of Ben McAdoo no longer works. They were 11-5 last year, but that was a mirage. It's all those one-score games they won. Detroit did the same thing last year. That's how Detroit got into the playoffs, winning a bunch of one-score games. And what's happening now?
Right. No, it's just shocking. 11-5 last year. Everyone loved McAdoo, and now a year later, he's less than a year later, his key card doesn't work.
Why is it so funny the way that Ian Rappaport broke this story? It's at Rap Sheet. Ben McAdoo tells me he's been fired. Hey, Ian. It's Ben.
Been fired.
A lot going on with me lately. I've been fired. Anyways, we call back. Catch up.
I was starting to like McAdoo, man. I was.
Oh, we're going to miss him.
We're going to miss him. Him, Tom Sula. We got Pagano's on the ropes. Like, what are we going to do when all these clown coaches get eliminated?
There'll be more clowns.
The factory will produce more clowns?
Yep.
There are always more clowns.
You want more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz? Tune in starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
If you've been to the mall recently, I'm sure you've noticed everyone is coming down with holiday fever. Luckily, 1-800-Flowers.com makes finding the perfect gift a joyous occasion. Right now, 1-800-Flowers is giving our listeners a special 24 for 24 offer. 24 holiday lights roses for just $24. That's only $1 per rose. To order 24 holiday lights roses for only $24, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Dan. Hurry, offer ends Wednesday, so order now.
Dan Le Batard.
Never going to stop. I am what I am, man. I'm 44 years old. I ain't changing.
Stugotz.
Why change now? It's worked. Here I am. Sitting next to you. Filthy rich.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
All right, so if you want to have some fun, go ahead and Google search Floyd Reese and Jerry Reese, so you can see two people who look very different. Chris Sims with us now. He's the host of the Sims and Lefkoe podcast and an NFL analyst for Bleacher Report. Do you know both of these people, Chris?
Yes, I do. I know both of the Reeses. Yes, they're not related.
Okay, they don't look anything alike, correct? One of them. Would you be willing to agree that one of them looks like the whitest person in the history of this country?
I would. Yes, I would be willing to agree to that. Yes,
okay,
I would.
Your dad is second.
My dad is number one. Come on.
Nice.
He's not even white. He's translucent. You can almost see through him.
All right. So, anyways, we heard that you had Blake Bortles ranked as the 70th ranked quarterback in the NFL, and we just wanted to check in with you to find out who is 69th and who is 71st, and we'll check in with you later this week to just get some of your other ranking.
Okay, I got a chuckle. A lot of my friends told me you guys wanted to fill in here. So 69, I'd probably go with Austin Davis, the backup quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Right.
And then 71, I'm going to go Cody Kessler of the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
Now, can I put this into context of how I got to this conversation a little bit?
No.
No.
Thank
Okay,
you.
fine.
We'll talk to you tomorrow about it. Okay, is that okay? We'll check in with you on the rest of the list tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right.
Isn't that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. I did have some follow-up questions, but we can do it tomorrow.
We can do it tomorrow. I'd like to see
I want to know if maybe Bortles, after a good game like he had yesterday, does he move him up now? Is he up from,
Well, he's still on the line. Ask him. Oh, hold on, Mike.
And I do have a question about Tony Romo and his dad.
Is he still there? Is he still there, or is he gone?
He's still there. I'm on the phone.
All right, hold
now.
on. Stugotz has got a follow-up question. Go ahead, Stugotz. What do you got for?
So, Chris, I'm wondering, is this an ongoing thing with you? So for Bortles, he's 70th, but now do you move him up after a really good weekend here?
Yeah, well, he can move up maybe into the mid-60s or low 60s, but he ain't going any higher than that, Stugotz, no matter what. I mean, he's going to have to put out some Joe Montana-type performances for me to do that.
All right. See you later, Chris. See you. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. Unless Stugotz has another follow-up question.
I wanted to ask him about Romo and just exactly how his dad feels about Tony Romo.
Hold on. Let's do that.
In a very
hold
private
on. Don't
moment.
let him go yet. Hold on a second. Then let's go ahead and talk to him. Go ahead and ask
Chris. You're still there?
Hey, I'm not one of your guys' girlfriends here. You can't keep teasing me and bringing me back.
We're going to have you on tomorrow to get 72 and 73. But listen,
and 68.
But I do have a question for you. Okay. If you're playing golf with Dad and there's no one around for miles and you guys are talking, Tony Romo comes up. Is your dad it's just you and him? Is he shredding Tony Romo? What is he doing?
No, he's definitely not shredding Tony Romo. Great respect in the Sims household for Tony Romo. Now, maybe I might shred Jim Nance in that conversation when that comes up, but I'm not shredding Tony Romo because I do really respect and like Tony Romo.
All right, so wait a minute. Give us some more of that.
Now we want the follow-up.
Did Nance run your dad out? Did Nance run your dad out for this new hot girlfriend, Romo?
Listen, I don't know everything about it, but it certainly seems like that. I mean, just connecting the dots.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get number 68 from you tomorrow. Whoa.
Crazy.
Whoa.
I actually have a follow-up that I wish I could ask.
Oh, is he still there? Is he still around?
Well, because, you remember that story about Chris Sims having the tattoos of a friend? That friend was Kyle Shanahan. They have matching tattoos.
We've talked to him about that, haven't we?
We haven't talked to Sims or Kyle Shanahan. We haven't talked to them about the ankle tattoos.
All right, we got more questions for tomorrow. Is he still there?
He's still there right now.
Oh, so why don't you just ask it right now? Ask it. Go ahead, Mike.
Ask him if he's still there.
It's a good question.
Hey, Chris, I recall a story when you were playing. You had tattoos.
I already heard you. Don't ask me again.
Right? So my question is, what's up with that?
Well, it wasn't like we were spooning in the bed and said, "Hey, let's go get matching tattoos." Okay, so that's not. It wasn't like we had a romantic night out and decided to do it. What happened is we were it was 5 of us. First of all, we all have a similar tattoo. We were the first 5 freshmen on campus. And you remember the movie called The Wood? I don't know if you guys remember that, but The Wood is about 4 black guys who were best friends, and the upperclassmen started calling us The Wood, so it kind of stuck. And we do, Kyle Shanahan, Rod Babers, Bo Scaife, Montrell Flowers have a W with initials around it. They're not exactly the same. Have I made smarter decisions in my life? Certainly, guys.
It sounds like you're a little angry about the question. It sounds like we've gotten on the wrong side.
I mean, you didn't. We didn't do anything.
I've tried this about 10 million times in my life, but I guess I deserve it.
That was an ironic nickname, right? Because you look nothing like the cast of The Wood.
Well, I'm a little, like we started off this phone call, I'm a little whiter than the normal people on the Wood. Yes, I am.
Have we run out of quiet? I want to keep talking to Chris Sims all week. Do you have another question?
I actually do have another question. It's a follow-up to the Jim Nance comment. Is he still around? Or?
Yes, he's still there.
I'm still here.
So do you rank play-by-play guys? And if so, where is Jim Nance on your list of guys of all-time great play-by-play guys?
Well, Well, he's not real high up on my list right now. Plain and simple. So I don't know. I haven't figured out. He's not like 70th like Blake Bortles, but he's pretty far down there.
Okay, Chris, thank you for being on with us. We'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? I can't believe I didn't know that I didn't know that there was a problem in the Sims household. That relationship is probably falling apart between Sims and Jim Nantz. It sounds like.
It does sound like that. Yes, I always thought it was Romo that was the problem, but apparently not.
Yeah, there were a few tea leaves there.
I mean, we just broke that story. Stumbling around trying to find out who was on Chris Sims's list of the 69th and 71st best quarterback in the league around the 70th ranked Blake Bortles.
Yeah, tune in tomorrow to find out 72.
We stumbled into
68.
You guys didn't know that, right? You guys didn't know that.
What, that he had Kessler at 71?
I knew that he once gave an interview a couple of weeks ago that suggested there was more to meets the eye. I didn't think months later, after that became a thing, he'd go out and do this.
I mean, that's going to be a blog thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
Isn't that inevitable? Can I go back and do something? Because I need to go back and do something because Mike Ryan reacted very strongly to the way that I was talking about Jimbo Fisher. I just want to explain something to you guys because I don't know Jimbo Fisher and he's always carried himself with the highest of integrity.
Sure.
The part that bothers me about the amount of money that Jimbo Fisher just got, you know me, Stugotz, how often am I reaching around in the pockets of others?
Rarely.
The reason it bothers me is because if Jimbo Fisher, who I don't believe to be any kind of super unique, if he is paid like this, it sets the market. And so what's going to happen next, it's not about Jimbo Fisher. What's going to happen next is you're going to keep telling me that the athletes can't be paid, and soon you're going to be paying these CEOs over $100 million for these contracts.
Sure.
And so that's the part that bothers me, that it's getting more and more distorted because we continue to play by the NCAA rules that were made before the TV money, and now the TV money is going crazy. So it's even more disproportionate between the amount of money these men are getting literally off of these bodies.
Sure.
Of unpaid labor.
But Saban sets the market, does he not? I mean, because Saban's going to get a raise here,
I know,
right?
but
He has to be the highest paid
coach. But I'm saying wherever Saban, if Saban wants right now, given what Jimbo Fisher just signed for, Nick Saban can make the argument he's worth $150 million.
Easily, he can make that argument. Easily. I'm not saying he is, but he can easily make that argument.
I'm saying that and so then where are we when these schools can pay? Like, if you keep going on this, if Jimbo Fisher's allowed to set the market, he's Jimbo Fisher. He's lifetime offensive coordinator until the last decade of his life. He was a lifetime assistant. If Jimbo Fisher can command highest money in the sport, Urban Meyer's next job, if there is one after Ohio State, he's going to go for $200 million.
Well, he should.
Jimbo did just set a market for what it'll take to get you to leave this program. And you're seeing this sort of stuff surround Gus Malzahn a little bit now. I'm glad he clarified a little bit because it's
not about Jimbo Fisher. It's not about Jimbo Fisher. It's about the injustice.
At your core, that's what it's all about. It's these guys are making that much off the backs of kids who are working for free. And they're doing a lot of work.
And it's getting worse and worse. And I'm watching the University of Miami Clemson game, and I'm seeing a Miami team that is getting physically harmed by the people it's playing against.
Right.
Miami guys are limping off of the field because of the overwhelming thing Clemson has built around Dabo Swinney, who is Jimbo Fisher. He's just another guy, a lifetime assistant who's been there for a while, got an opportunity, and now it's rolling. And if you're looking for a CEO type, I get it if it's Nick Saban or Urban Meyer. Jimbo Fisher?
It's weird.
I mean, come on.
Don Batard.
For me, the eyebrows are probably my best features.
All right. I mean, what is that saying?
Well, they're thick and they're nice, and
the eyebrows are your best feature, but I mean,
it's not saying much.
I mean, what is leprosy's best feature?
Stugotz.
It's the best I've got, Dad.
All right. Your eyebrows are your best feature? Do you really get complimented on that a lot?
I do often, yes. They're nice, right? Look at them. Come on, they're thick.
They look like ferrets.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
For his size, Mike, can you look up for me Alvin Kamara? His size. Because I don't think I've ever seen, a running back that size, that hard to tackle.
So good.
5'10", 215.
Yeah.
There cannot be a guy in the league breaking more tackles than that guy. There cannot be.
I'm not certain. Well, I'm certain there's people keeping track of that type of stuff.
Todd Gurley seems like a menace to me. Todd Gurley seems like someone I would not want to bring down. Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell, backs of that size. I am not used to the people who are hard to bring down being 5'10", 215.
What's amazing is the running game as a whole, because Carolina they're a pretty good team with a pretty good defense, and what Mark Ingram and Kamara did to them yesterday was insane. And what's cool is it's making the game so much easier for Drew Brees. It's just making it easier for him.
Well, that's stable organizations. That's how they allow their people to age gracefully. It's how the Patriots are doing it with Tom Brady.
Football Outsiders tracks broken tackles. Kareem Hunt and Le'Veon Bell are the top two. Alvin Kamara is 3, but when you break down the touches that the first two are getting, it's a hell of a lot more than what Kamara is doing.
The way that dude runs, in fact, it's not sustainable. As great as he is, and I'm not even saying he's going to get injured. What I'm saying is the game, he is young. I talked to him on Highly Questionable. And after games, this happened at the beginning with Edgerrin James at the beginning of his career. Edgerrin James would play an NFL game in which he carried 30 times, and then that night he would go play basketball with his friends.
Right.
Because he was young.
Sure.
And Kamara is that kind of young, but the body will get used up by that sport in years. He will not be breaking tackles at that rate in a couple of years, not at that size.
However, in terms of elusiveness per touch, you can make a solid argument that Duke Johnson's slightly better than Alvin Kamara, and the Browns just simply don't put the ball in Duke Johnson's hands.
Of course. Why would they?
I'm trying to figure out for that size. He runs like he's 30 pounds heavier.
He does. In fact, I'm guessing, I don't know, how big is Mark Ingram? Because I think he looks like he's physically bigger than Mark Ingram.
No, but at least Ingram is stubby. So Ingram's got the body type where you would understand that he's not giving you very much to hit, right? Because what is just granite. What's available to you to hit is just granite. 5'10", 215.
Yeah, Ingram's a big guy too at 5'10". Don't have a weight on him just yet. Stand by.
They're fun to watch, man.
Yes,
Michael Thomas, the wide receiver, is good. I mean, they are fun to watch.
He's also a 5'10", 215. Yeah, and they get along great.
But they look different, right? Ingram, Kamara,
yes.
Yeah, they do. They do their interviews together. They get along. Well, you realize that that's needed now in that sport. They were trying to do it with Peterson as well, Adrian Peterson.
Right.
Where they realize, they realize what I'm telling you about Kamara. That's not going to be sustainable unless what they're doing by having Ingram as well is they're increasing the lifespan of Kamara running like that.
So Ingram had 14 carries yesterday. Kamara had 9. They combined for 148 yards.
What they're saying, well, Kamara also catches the ball out of the backfield.
So does Ingram.
But what they're saying to Kamara is basically, give me 15 of the hardest runs you got. Just give us 15 of them. Ingram will take the other 15.
Kamara occupies a unique space in that league that you don't often see. You saw it with Ezekiel Elliott last year when he was in a bit better shape. Go through you or run totally past you. Having explosiveness and the ability to run through you is something rare, and it makes me wonder why Tennessee wasn't a hell of a lot better with
I don't
him.
understand why Kamara went in the third round. Maybe it was that size stuff I'm talking about. But what I'm telling you, I saw yesterday, and I've been seeing it all season from him. Safeties come in at full speed and bounce off of him. They're not wrapping up. No. They're coming in at full speed. They're just diving into him. They're not wrapping up, and he breaks the tackle.
It's a great point you made, and I'm certain this is their strategy, where he hasn't rushed more than 12 times in a single game this year. He's averaging 7 yards per carry. So I think you're right. It's, hey, give us your best 10 to 12 rushes each game.
Stugotz, watching him run feels crazy. He's not conserving anything. So he's sitting there, and he's fighting for extra yards on everything, and I can't remember a guy this size that I saw. Steven Jackson makes sense when he's breaking tackles.
Right.
Because you're looking at it and that looks like it's 235 pounds.
Yes, a physical specimen, correct.
Kamara, and not only this, but Kamara, is Steven Jackson listed?
But what's interesting about Kamara and Ingram, they're listed at the exact same height and weight. They just carry it differently. Kamara doesn't look like this big bruiser that can run through you just by looking at him, but he's a big dude, just like Ingram. It's a trick on the eyes.
I mean, yeah, because they look very different. And Kamara reminds me, even in the uniform, he reminds me of some of the Edgerrin James stuff, because who else in the league is still doing gold teeth across the front? And he's doing nose ring. He's doing multiple nose rings. He's got multiple nose rings.
nose ring, braids, and gold teeth. That's a fun throwback.
Man, New Orleans is a good city for him. If he wishes to partake in some fun will be lapping upon his shores here shortly.
Readily available to him.
Yes, because man, what's happening in New Orleans is fun to watch, and they're keeping Drew Brees young. Funniest thing from the sports weekend next.
Don Batard.
I don't know if you actually respect Steve Aoki or not, but you came off like you didn't care for him at all.
Oh, I don't.
Stugotz.
I don't care for his music. I don't care for what he represents. I don't care about the genre. I don't care about the young people who like that genre. I think it's offensive and blasphemous that they have replaced the true musicians that do real art throughout the world. I think he's a sham stealing money, a professional thief.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Coach Gus Malzahn has agreed to a new deal that will keep him at Auburn for the next 7 years with a contract that's worth $49 million. The Giants have fired head coach Ben McAdoo and GM Jerry Reese. And finally, parents in Iceland are not allowed to name their children Zoe, Harriet, Enrique, or Duncan. Unless both parents are foreign, parents in Iceland must submit their child's name to the National Registry within 6 months of birth. If the name is not on the registry list of approved names, parents must seek approval of the name with the Icelandic Naming Committee. About half the names submitted get rejected for violating Iceland's strict naming requirements. Among those requirements, names must be capable of having Icelandic grammatical endings, may not conflict with the linguistic structure of Iceland, and should be written in accordance with the ordinary rules of Icelandic orthography. I don't know how to say that. Sorry. Orthography. Did I say it right? Doesn't matter. This is on you. So, for example, and I didn't say anyone specific, I just said it's on you, and it's not on me, but I'm not blaming anyone by name, so I don't get fined there. So, for example, if a name contains a letter that does not appear in the Icelandic alphabet, the letters C, Q, and W, for example, the names are banned. What's that word, man? You know that word?
I don't care.
Well, no, just check out the word. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to Sports Center and ESPN Radio all throughout today. Now, let's read that. Orthography? It's a weird word.
Funniest thing from the sports week, and we're going to get to it in a second. A salute to Marcus Peters for disrespecting the flag. He's going to be suspended for that. I'm telling you, Stugotz, the suspension for Marcus Peters throwing the flag, is that going to be a suspension? Or is it you can't disrespect the refereeing? You can't pick up a flag and throw it into the stands.
He'll get a game, I think.
Maybe he'll just get fined. What do you think? What do you think, a fine or a game? Regardless, whatever the penalty is, it has to be lighter for Marcus Peters than it is for Gronk.
Well, of course, yes.
Well, you say of course, but...
Oh, no, I think Gronk's getting multiple games here. I think the NFL knows they have to do something drastic to Rob Gronkowski. They have to. You can't just chalk everything under, hey, it's just Gronk being Gronk. You can't do that.
All right, before we get to funniest thing of the sports weekend, Nick Saban's going to win the national championship again, right? After not playing in the conference title game. After not playing in the conference title game, Nick Saban's in play again to win the national championship because he's in the Final Four. And I'm just curious, Stugotz, because our measurements are imperfect on this stuff.
Right.
And because we're always talking about how weird pro football is. College football is basically just as random and weird because you got young kids, inconsistent kids doing it, but you basically got 30 teams that have a chance. 30, just like the pros. So it's all of football's randomness combined with youth so that you get one of these results that doesn't make any sense, which is when you're playing in Auburn, Georgia gets smoked. When you're playing on a neutral field, Auburn gets smoked.
Right.
It's like smoked.
Yes.
And we're a couple of weeks removed from Auburn just dismantling Georgia.
Right.
And then they go and they play on a neutral field, and Georgia just dismantles Auburn.
And you feel like the result would have been the same had they played Alabama on a neutral field,
well,
right?
That's what's going to happen. When Alabama starts playing everybody on a neutral field, it's going to be like, if Clemson doesn't get them, I don't know that anybody else can.
Georgia, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that national semifinal between Clemson and Alabama
feels like the final.
Yeah,
right.
the spread for that game is super close. Bama favored by less than 2, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we're sitting here praising college
Bama's
football.
going to be favored to win the national championship again after not playing in a title game and after looking on Saturday like they weren't going to even get into the tournament.
Probably. And we're sitting here praising college football, and we should, because start to finish, they have the best season. They have figured it out. But it's flawed, man. It is flawed. Like 2 years in a row, you have teams who did not play this week in Ohio State and Alabama.
Yeah, all of it's flawed.
And they make it to the Final Four simply because they did not play.
Can I ask you again about these contracts? You just mentioned Gus Malzahn, $49 million. You want to give me all the NFL coaches who are being paid that much? Again, Gus Malzahn, who I might argue, even though he's had success at Auburn, I might also argue, just another guy who used to be a longtime coordinator. I can argue that that's not Urban Meyer. I can argue that that's not Nick Saban. I can argue that a lot of guys in college football making a lot of the money are just a guy.
He took him to a national championship. They were bad when he left. He came back.
Mm-hmm.
What's special to you? Just two guys, Saban and Meyer?
7 years, $49 million. Give me all the pro coaches making that much money.
Well, the college coaches should get paid more than the pro coaches. They have a longer commitment. They're away from their families more. The recruiting is an entirely different aspect.
You think college coaches should be paid more than pro coaches?
Yeah, because of the recruiting aspect. I do.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Who should be paid more? College head coaches or professional head coaches?
Is a pro head coaching profession that much more difficult than the college ones? They're doing the same thing. They're going up against...
You're saying the college coaches are doing more work because they simply have to recruit.
That's
but
NFL
coaches are getting ready for the draft. I mean, it's the same, aren't they?
But not the same way.
Wait a minute. Are you guys going to just blow past the path? You're going to blow past that one of them's amateurism and one of them's professional. Like, you're going to give me all the examples. Yeah. Give me all the examples in leadership, throughout entertainment, and anywhere people make money that you have where the amateur makes more money than the pro.
Because I can keep the two topics separate, though. Just because I feel the players should be paid, I truly feel that way. I'm not saying don't pay the coaches fairly either. I'm not saying take their money because they're making it because they're not paying the players.
I just don't see how
the players are amateur. The coaches are pros. I mean, they're professionals.
I know, but I object to the idea of college coaches making more than professional coaches.
What was the number on Malzahn again?
7 years, $49 million.
So $7 a year. So Pete Carroll's at 8. 8 plus. Peyton's at 8. Belichick's at 7.5.
They tell us Belichick's at 7.5.
Andy Reid's at 7.5. Harbaugh's at 7.
So you guys think Malzahn should be paid like the top of the professional industry? Okay.
Jeff Fisher was at 7 last year.
That's fine. I mean, okay.
Oh no, I don't feel like that. But then that's. He's not a great coach. He's a good coach. That's just the market. It's unfair. But
that's what I'm objecting to.
You're objecting to the market.
I'm objecting to the way the market is now escalating because agents have taken control of the process and what they do. These are piranhas feeding. And they saw what happened in Tennessee, and everyone made the market go up by doing what it is that was happening in Tennessee, where they were all using Tennessee like a prostitute for the 4 minutes that she made herself available to prostitution.
I'll ask it to you this way. Who's more directly involved with the amount of money their organization takes in? Gus Malzahn at Auburn or Pete Carroll at Seattle?
Okay, but whose corporation makes more money that they are the face and voice for? Like, don't talk to me about responsibilities. Talk to me about you are a corporate symbol for the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of people do this. Pete Carroll. So that face, that guy, whether he's doing all of that, the power, everything else, like, yes, he's not recruiting players. He's not going out into some inner city to go find a player.
Yeah, I think it's even more important in college football. When you look at the promos for college football games, you see Bob Stoops versus Nick Saban because they're the constant.
Okay, that's fine.
Mike loves college coaches.
Then make it professional. Then stop telling me it's amateurism. Stop selling it to me as that. That's fine. Then make it professional. You know how you make it professional? You pay the players.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't say take it from the coaches.
But you keep telling me you don't have money, and that's where it keeps revealing itself. You keep telling me that college sports doesn't have money because of Title IX, because you got to pay for the crew team, but you have the money. You just gave $80 million of it to Jimbo Fisher. Let's do funniest thing from the sports weekend.
Hey, people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hardest this weekend. It is a segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha, ha, ha!
Funniest thing from the sports weekend is brought to you by Office Depot. This season, take care of business by treating yourself to great tech and furniture from Office Depot, Office Max.
Chris, what do you got? Funniest thing from the sports weekend?
During Sunday's game, Alex Mack, the center for the Falcons, was inadvertently hit with the penalty flag, and he flopped and fell to the ground. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, I did. I saw that. I saw that. It was embarrassing. There was a flop situation. He pretended he was knocked unconscious. Guillermo, what do you got?
While celebrating his touchdown, Dolphins' Julius Thomas was riding a football like a Bronco, but it looked like he was not riding the football like a Bronco.
It was pornographic in nature?
Yeah.
Okay. Jay Cutler, Julius Thomas, revenge game. What was it? Go ahead. What do you got, Roy?
The Pontiac Silverdome refuses to die. They tried to demolish it with explosive, but it wouldn't go down.
It made the explosives. It broke the explosives? Yeah, that makes sense. What was the rent on that? Didn't we try and get that as a bachelor pad one year? They told us we could have it for $600,000.
Yeah, you were interested in buying it under $1 million. You were considering a bid.
The taxes got us, though, right?
It was the taxes that got out of hand.
Yeah, the taxes.
But we were
talking about buying the land as a bachelor pad. Pontiac Silverdome, $600,000. Right?
Yes.
Did you see what Hulk Hogan tweeted about it?htag Pontiac Silverdome. If you really are done with it, just call Hulk Hogan. I'll tear down that building again, brother.
Of course. Yep. Mike, what do you got?
Mine's boring because we've talked about it, but again, Marcus Peters threw a penalty flag into the stands, was ejected, came back onto the field in full uniform, missing his socks for no reason that's been explained to me yet.
Just great. All of it.
Story.
Great. Stugotz, what do you have?
Rodney Harrison wagging a finger at Gronk for a dirty play.
That's funny. Rodney Harrison, the Stugotz is strong in you, my friend.
Yes, it is.
Rodney Harrison, I nominate you for dirtiest player in the history of sports. It's you and Romanowski. I assume that finger you're wagging is soaked in steroids. Stop admonishing others for misbehavior when you are shining light for dirty play throughout the galaxies.
You're right, man. It was a tough call between that and the University of Tennessee.
Marshawn Lynch had a notice that he had to provide a urine sample, so he got out of interviews by announcing to everyone that he had to go give his, quote, ding-ding sauce.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.